welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And this is Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by La Petite Creme. La Petite Creme diapering lotion shields the skin from irritants 24/7 just by cleaning with it at diaper changing time. And today's episode is also brought to you by Original Sprout. Original Sprout carries safe, effective, and pediatrician-tested shampoos, conditioners, styling, and body care products for adults and babies. But we will hear more from our sponsors in a little while. But you can head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and head to our sponsor page. And if you need anything, see if you can give them any of your business because they make this podcast possible. And when you're there, you can scroll down and enter your email address, and we will send you episodes straight to your inbox every week. And now Dianne has our review of the week.
And this is the one that you sent me. Did it come to your Instagram?
I don't remember. Which one is it?
Oh, I don't know. But I think it came to your Instagram. I don't know because
Okay.
you sent it to me and you're like, this is a good review.
So yeah, if it's a screenshot, it's usually Instagram.
Yeah. So she says, sorry, I don't iTunes or I would leave the review there. I love the podcast and that it affirmed what I had planned on doing with my baby and gave me language and tactics to use whenever it felt like everything else had been taken away. Sudden severe preeclampsia delivery at 30 weeks plus 6 days. That's early. 50 days in the NICU, seeing an IBCLC and having this podcast gave me back breastfeeding when prioritizing getting out of the NICU almost took it away. The last thing I wanted. I only wish I had heard your episode about oversupply and pumping earlier. I didn't understand that's what I had because everyone focuses in boosting supply. I'm guessing because you can sell stuff for that. I still struggle to balance my anxiety of having enough now that I pump less. But your real talks always remind me I'm making enough that you don't need to make 2,000 milliliters a day. Thank you. And this is amazing because NICU, as if anybody listened to our NICU episode, I mean, it's super hard to have a baby in the NICU and to really focus. Like it really hit home for me when she was like, it was hard to keep breastfeeding when my focus was just to get out of the NICU. And that's a very true statement. But congratulations to you for making this. And amazing. And then it made me think of like, have we ever done an episode on oversupply? I don't think we have.
I think
we really should.
I think we've done an episode on oversupply.
Have we?
Maybe a while ago. We should probably do another one.
Yeah, maybe we should because I really find that people don't realize that they have oversupply. I think people are like, what? I have an oversupply? It's like, yeah. You have an oversupply.
Like, I thought it was supposed to just be like dripping in everywhere and
I'm supposed to pump like 6 ounces every time I pump. It's like, no, that's an oversupply. Right. So yes, maybe we should do that at some point. Just, to kind of like put it all into perspective, what an oversupply actually is.
Oh yeah. We have oversupply.
Oh, we do. Okay.
What was this? Oh, well, no. That's not what that is. Oversupply, but it was episode 40. So.
Oh God. Where are we now? We're like.
200 something.
Oh. All right. Maybe we'll do it again. I always, when people email and they're asking about do we have an episode on this topic or whatever, and I look back and we do, I'll send it to them. But if it's episode 20 or something, I'm always like, oh God, I wonder what we said.
I don't know.
Because it just seems like a long time ago.
I know.
So yeah,
I don't trust things. I know. I hear things I said a few years ago, and I'm like, no, I don't know what I'm talking about.
We've all grown with this experience. Everybody,
we'll do a new one.
Yeah, we'll totally do a new one. So thank you so much for sending that. Like I said, she doesn't iTunes. So sent that to Abby through Instagram. If you can put one on iTunes, it's so helpful for us. If you cannot and you still want to send us a review and some, your story or whatever, you can definitely do it through Instagram. You can send it to our email at badassbreastfeedingpodcast@gmail.com. Our email has been busy lately. So be patient. I will definitely email you back. I promise. But yeah, don't forget. Some people I love the emails we've gotten where people are like, oh, maybe somebody from your team. It's like team, it's us. It's us.
Well, and the email, it's Dianne.
Yeah. Yes.
If there's emails that you think I can answer, then just send them to me. Because I try to answer. For some reason, I don't understand. I would love to know how people get my email, because so many emails come to the Badass Breastfeeder email too. But I don't know how people know about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not keeping it a secret, really, but
no. So we get them wherever you send them. You send them out there somewhere in the world. We get them.
Yeah.
So it's totally. And we thank you so much for it. So we are going to talk about weaning an infant today, and
people are probably like, why in the world would these two people be talking about weaning an infant?
Right. Why would a lactation consultant and a breastfeeding advocate talk about weaning an infant? Because weaning an infant is a real thing that happens every day, and it is really important to talk to a lactation consultant when you are weaning an infant or weaning anything.
I know. Well, I think people think that you're not supposed to. They can't help you wean from all kinds of things, but
no, I can't help with
breastfeeding.
Yeah, that I can help with.
People think that you shouldn't contact people even do this. They start their messages off with like, oh, I don't know if it's okay to ask this question. It's about weaning. I don't know if I'm like, but that's part of breastfeeding. Weaning is like part of it.
And it's a very involved process too. You can't just like stop. And I did have somebody recently who was struggling so much with breastfeeding, and, despite how much support I was trying to give her, just did not have overall support all the way around with her struggles. And was told just stop cold turkey, like by her medical professional. And I'm like, you can't do that. Ugh. Like, I'm not trying to make this more difficult for you. And I'm always afraid that people are going to think that I'm just trying to like make them draw it out longer. And it's like, no, I'm not trying to make this difficult process. Cause usually if you're weaning an infant, there's something going on, right? It's not just like, all right, we've gone far enough. Let's go. There's usually a reason why you're weaning an infant.
Right.
And that is like, there's a lot you're struggling with. So it's not like I'm trying to like make it go further for you. There are things that you just can't do it cold turkey. You just can't. And we're going to talk about why. But my first question, that maybe there's no answer to, is like, what would we consider an infant? Like, what do you think?
Oh, I would just say under 1.
Would you say under 1?
I would say under 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then of course, if you're weaning a 2-month-old versus a 10-month-old, I mean, that's going to look very different.
Yeah.
So I suppose we need to get into that too. I mean, I think infancy is technically under 1.
So I would say for the purpose of this podcast, because once you get into like solid foods and, like you said, like 10 months, 11 months, like you're definitely breastfeeding a little bit less anyway, or started to naturally kind of come down off of that. But if it's like, this is the only thing your baby is doing. Right. So I would say anything up to like 5 months.
Yeah.
For like this, because I mean, you have to, and now you have a whole thing now with trying to find formula. Right. So now, like, that was another thing, like this mom that I was just kind of referring to. Then she was just like, this is crazy with this formula. Like, you can't find any formula. It's really hard to find formula right now. And that is a real thing that's going on, is there's just a shortage of formula. So you really have to kind of think about what we're going to feed our baby when you wean.
Well, that's, right. Because when if you're weaning a toddler, you don't think about, or don't have to think about replacing the breast milk. They just go on to continue to eat solid foods or whatever. Yeah. But if you're weaning an infant, that infant that is solely drinking breast milk, you can't just start feeding them like Cheerios.
No.
They have to have breast milk or formula, because that's what has the proper amount of the nutrients that they need in it. Solid foods doesn't have that, so you have to replace it, and it can be donor milk or it can be formula, but those are the only options.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So whatever the reasoning behind, so first of all, lactation consultant is super helpful in this area, really. I promise you. Because there's a lot that goes into this weaning process. It's not just like, okay, we're just going to, it's just not working for us. We're just going to stop breastfeeding. There is a lot that goes into this process. You probably could do that, but it really is not healthy for anybody. So doing it the right way, and feeling okay about it, I think is really important. The earlier you wean, I think the more involved it's probably going to be because you have a full milk supply the majority of the time. You've got a full milk supply, or somewhat of a milk supply that we're needing to dry up. And I'm doing my little air quotes that nobody can see. So, and that takes a little time, right? It takes a little time for that to happen. You don't dry up overnight. And that was one of the things this mom that I've been in touch with over the last couple of weeks, because she was like, my boobs still hurt. When is that going to go away? And it's well, you've had, it's been several months of breastfeeding and this isn't your first baby, and your body just, it's going to take a little time for things to kind of wrap up. So even though in your mind you might be done, your body is not quite done yet.
Yeah, your body's not going to understand that. Milk supply wise and hormonally too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the hormone thing is that's the bigger thing that I always worry about. So we know that breastfeeding is a very hormonal process. We know that there's a lot of hormones involved in breastfeeding. And if and when you wean, if it's early in the game, your baby has been breastfeeding quite a bit, you're breastfeeding every feeding or the majority of feedings, your body is just going to expects this, right? It's just expecting this. And then all of a sudden you take that away and your body's like, what's happening here? Where's our baby? It really just doesn't know. And that hormonal surge, that hormonal drop, I should say, can be pretty drastic. So, and I've had people that the baby was a year or older and only breastfeeding once or twice a day and felt a lot of that hormonal surge and almost went into a postpartum depression type of feeling with weaning.
Yeah, now that's an episode we have is the post-weaning depression.
We do have a weaning depression. Which is a
good episode to listen to if you're going to be having to wean early or weaning at all, is just to know what to expect.
Right. Absolutely. Because it is. So I would think, if you're weaning a baby that you breastfeed several times a day, that's going to be a harder transition than if you're just, on psychologically. I could be wrong about that, but that's just kind of in my head how that would be. But yeah, so the things that you need to do or to start doing is to cut back. You can't just stop and just be all right, we're done. Today, we're done. No more breastfeeding. Cutting them off. That's it. You can do that, but you're still going to have to pump or something because you can't just leave that alone in the breast. Your breasts are going to get super full. They're going to be hard. They're going to be painful. You're risking mastitis. You're risking, discomfort. We definitely you need to get that milk out, not to the point where you're encouraging more milk supply, but to the point where you're comfortable so that your body can start drying up that milk supply. So you can't just hang up, throw your pump away, stop nursing the baby and just think that everything's going to be done. And tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and you're going to feel totally normal, because that's not how it works. Your body is still going to be making that milk. So you need to really kind of cut it back just a little bit, start slowly, cutting it back. If you are nursing your baby and you want to wean, then we're going to start, replacing some of those nursing sessions with bottles so that we can kind of start weaning back and start to take that away a little bit. If you are only pumping, then we're going to start start cutting back on some of that pumping. And when we cut back on the pumping, it's not okay, we're just going to go down to one pumping session a day and that's it. No, we have to take a few, we're going to cut back. If you're pumping 20 minutes a day or 20 minutes per session, then we're going to cut that back to 15 minutes. Then we're going to cut it back to 10, until we can take a session away. It's definitely a process and it might take a few days to a week, really. It's going to, or even, longer than that, depending on your situation. It's a process that we can't overlook if we want to do it safely.
Yeah, I remember when I just said I remember. I don't remember. I was 3 months old. But my mom started breastfeeding me. And then she said that at 3 months old, the doctor said, okay, you can stop now and give formula. And, she didn't know anything. So she just
Neither did the doctor.
No, clearly.
Yep. Yeah.
And she goes, she said to me, I feel like I told the story before. She goes, yeah, and he told me to wean, and you just didn't want to stop. It was just oh my God, making this big sarcastic comment about how just I wouldn't let go when I was 3 months old.
You're so difficult.
I know.
So difficult.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. So yeah, the baby's not always, the baby's going to know that there's changes too and might not take to this change very well either. Or I shouldn't say very well,
but this is the only thing the baby knows. You're their person. Like
right.
This is the only thing the baby knows. And that is, that's a big deal to them. That's a big change for them. So no, they might not take it easily. It might be, it's going to be a transition, not just for you, but for the baby as well. And I think we don't really consider that. It's like, the baby's still being fed, but we know that the babies breastfeed for many, many, many reasons, not just for food. You're only taking one of those reasons away.
Right. Right. Exactly. You're replacing only thinking about one.
Right.
And, no, I forgot what I was going to say. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I got a puppy yesterday. I'm just going to tell everybody I got a puppy yesterday. So it's kind of like I had a baby yesterday because I got the same amount of sleep and have done the same amount of monitoring of this thing in my house. And he's adorable. We should put a picture on the website.
Oh, we should. Yes.
Yeah. His name is Jesse. He's named after Jesse Pinkman.
I told, so, I showed it to my kids and stuff, and I had to show the picture to my dogs, who they thought he was very cute. But I told my son, I go, because we were actually, when you sent that text, we were in Verizon, which is a whole different story that I don't even want to get into. But we were, and I go, his name's Jesse, because he's a big Breaking Bad fan, which my son is too. Yeah. And he goes, does she watch Better Call Saul? Does she know the new season's out? I'm like, I'm sure she's all over it. It's
I do. Tell him that I'm up to date. And yes, I'm watching all of that.
All right. So should we take a...
Oh, yeah, I guess I did remember what I was going to say, and I'll say it after, after we take another break from our conversation for our wonderful sponsors.
Oh, we have a new one.
Yes, we do have a new one, La Petite Creme. And this is really interesting because I was learning some things while I was, working on this ad copy with them. So, yes, La Petite Creme is a company that makes a diaper cream. And did you know that French moms don't use baby wipes?
That's amazing.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
Yes. Yeah. Even for number 2, they use an oil-based lotion that cleans and disinfects like a wipe, but also leaves a thin protective layer behind so that the next pee or poo is not in direct contact with the skin. Humidity, friction, and contact with acidic waste are the main causes of diaper rash in infants. La Petite Creme diapering lotion shields the skin from these triggers 24/7 just by cleaning with it at diaper changing time. Here is your key to a healthy bum, protecting while you clean. And it's easy to use. Simply apply on a disposable pad or a washcloth and wipe away. Voila. No mess, no cry, no bulky gear. Your baby's bum will thank you for it. La Petite Creme diaper care line is handmade in Florida by founders Cecile and Fanny, certified USDA organic, and contains only 6 ingredients you can pronounce. Head to La Petite Creme. That's LAPETITECREME and use code BADASS for 20% off your order. Did y'all get that when I spelled that out? I spelled it out like everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, I totally got that. But La Petite Creme, I think you can get it. Code BADASS will get you 20% off of your first order. And this episode is also brought to you by Original Sprout. Original Sprout carries safe, effective, and pediatrician-tested shampoos, conditioners, and styling care products that are produced in California. The Tahitian collection includes the Island Bliss shampoo and Luscious Island conditioner, Protective Protein Mist, which I love, and Tahitian hair oil. These are all formulated with oils such as coconut oil, linseed oil, jojoba oil, mangango oil, and argan oil. These oils provide extra moisturizing to control frizz, prevent breakage, and restore dry and brittle strands, leaving your hair luscious, shiny, and soft. All of Original Sprouts products are paraben and phthalate free, safe for everyone, vegan and cruelty free as well. They are not just for babies anymore. Check out the entire line at Original Sprout. and use code BADASS for 25% off of your order. And our sponsors and their promo codes and the direct links, in case you don't get all my spelling, is at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com in our show notes under this episode. And also at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, you will find further information that we talk about in this episode. You will find our breastfeeding resources, all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your very own one-on-one online lactation consultation with Dianne, who can help you with weaning if that is something you need to do.
Absolutely.
And what I was going to say before I got sidetracked with my new puppy was that, so we were talking about like, how, just cold turkey, like, yeah, you can stop. But people don't realize that weaning is a process. And people will say, oh, you need to wean. Okay, for order to do this, you need to wean. And to do that, you need to wean. Or you're going to be doing this and you need to wean. It's like, hold on a second. People say just wean as if it's like as quick to do as it is to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my God, people don't understand how involved this is.
It really is.
We just say it. People don't know. We just don't know. We don't know anything about breastfeeding. We don't know anything about all of this. And people just say it like, just wean. And people will like, people who contact me and ask about weaning, I'll always ask a couple questions. Like, are you, not to like try to talk people out of it, but sometimes people will be like, yeah, well, I have to go on this medication and they said I have to wean. And then I'm like, okay, so let me just give you some information. If you need information about weaning after what I tell you, we'll proceed with that conversation. But did you know that you actually don't have to wean by taking that medication? And they'll be like, oh my God, I didn't know that. Or, whatever other reasons. And so, there's so much misinformation about breastfeeding, obviously. And there's so much misinformation about weaning.
So much. And I have had situations. So I've had like definitely a bunch of different situations when it comes to weaning that people have asked about. And I remember one where, sometimes it is a medication thing, not like you need to take this or you need to have this surgery. So yeah, you better wean. But I've had some situations where it was an actual health issue that
Right.
Mom has had their whole, like for, years or whatever. The one that's popping into my head was multiple sclerosis. And the mom was on this medication, has to go off it during pregnancy, can only stay off it for so long before symptoms start coming back, and needed to go back on it. And I remember, so she was breastfeeding for several months, but then was like, all right, I need to go back on this medication. And I did look it up for her and we did talk about it. And I'm like, actually, it looks, it's fine. And she's like, but I'm not comfortable with that.
Right. That's the thing is that some people, even when you tell them like, this is okay, people are just not comfortable with it.
And it's like, okay. Like, I totally get that, I totally get that. And we'll work with it. So sometimes it is things that are out of your control, It's not always this perfect situation where you have this perfectly breastfeeding baby and you're just kind of going along and then you're just like, okay, time to wean or whatever. Like sometimes there's really things in your life that are making it difficult to continue breastfeeding.
Totally. Yeah. And sometimes those are just emotional or psychological.
Yeah.
Like,
and we don't want to make it harder for you.
No,
like
no one's trying to do that. If you need information on how to wean, this is where you go.
Right. You have to talk to somebody.
I need to do this. I need help figuring this out.
Honestly, though, the thing that I worry about the most, I know everybody's like, oh, I don't want to get mastitis. I don't want to be full and end up with mastitis. But honestly, like my bigger concern is the psychological piece of it. Having a baby is hard. Postpartum is hard. We have anxiety going into the pregnancy. We have anxiety going into parenthood. Weaning will exacerbate that just psychologically, just because the changes are so dramatic at times. And this is something that most like medical professionals aren't going to talk to you about this because they don't realize it's a thing. So this is really huge. And I always make sure that I'm like, okay, if it's somebody that I know well, like this mom that I've been kind of referring back to, I know, how she handles her anxiety. So I'm was very happy that she already had herself set up for that she, already had that in place. But that's a really important piece of it. You need to work it out. And all of a sudden, like you start feeling not so psychologically more anxious, more depressed, more, and you're weaning, like that is, it's connected.
Have you ever seen that? So I've asked you this before, that show Succession.
Oh, I have not, but I remember you asking about it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's just it's like this billionaire family, and the guy's getting old, and he's trying to pick like which one of his kids is going to take over the business, and they're all just horrible people. And, horrible rich people that stab each other in the back every minute of the day they get a chance, and then they're friends again and they stab each other in the back, and it's over and over. There's like so much. It's so good. But there was this one of the daughter is married to this guy who she like has zero respect for. And she just kind of treats him like that he really wants to be a part of this family because this family is super, rich and famous. And but she treats him like garbage. And he said something that I always think of when I think of weaning. It was amazing. He was like, because they were talking about breaking up, and she doesn't want the marriage to end because she's got someone there to kind of, just mistreat, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's talking about getting divorced, and he goes, and, I think she says something like, do you really want to do that or whatever, something. And he goes, I wonder if the sadness I would feel without you would be less than the sadness I feel with you.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my God, that's such a great question to ask yourself when you're going to wean,
Right.
Like, or any kind of ending anything. It's like, what do you know? I'm miserable with this now. If I stop, would I be more or less miserable? And
that's a great point.
I know. I loved it. I was like, oh my God, that's such a great quote.
That is like, especially in those situations where you have parents who are really struggling with breastfeeding,
Yeah.
and you're just struggling to hold it together. You're you're having a hard time, whatever it is, whether it be pain or milk supply or just support. And you're really, really, really struggling. And you really that's a great question to ask yourself. Like, you think you're going to just feel better if you just stop. You're going to be like, oh, well, let's just stop. And it's like, that's going to solve one problem. But I mean,
yeah. So there's all kinds of reasons why people stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And wean. And
and you're not a horrible person if you want to wean,
Even if you just, it's like, because I think we talk about weaning sometimes when we talk about like, oh, you're being forced to wean. You're on some medication where you absolutely can't breastfeed, because there are like a handful of them. Or something's happened where, but you don't always have to be forced to wean. Like if you really, you can also just want to.
Right. And that's
you don't have to be forced into it. It's fine. You're not like less badass.
I was trying to find some reason to wean when my kids were little. Well, with my first, especially the twins, I was, I don't know. I was just kind of going through life like a zombie when I had them, I think. But with my first son, like, oh my God, I just wanted a reason to wean. Like in the first couple of months, I freaking hated it. I hated breastfeeding. Yeah. But I was just not happy overall anyway. So it's like, it was a whole thing, but it was not, it's hard. Like it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, this is all hard.
Yeah.
And you feel all over the map, and that's a normal way to feel during this, having a new baby.
Yeah. I mean, it's just,
so we're cutting down the feedings and pumping so that we don't get mastitis, but not pumping too much to encourage milk supply.
Right. So the way it works is, I don't mean to, I keep cutting you off. I'm sorry.
That's up. No, you don't. Go ahead.
So the way your body works is if you are using that milk, which means you're latching the baby or you're pumping and you're emptying the breasts, you are telling your body, the baby's feeding, let's make more milk. Let's make more milk. So it is that stimulation that is giving you more milk, that is telling your body, let's make more. So in order for us to stop that process, we need to obviously cut back on nursing or pumping. So if you are leaving milk in the breast, so if you pump just until you're comfortable, like if you're feeling really full and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable, you have to just express a little bit to just stay comfortable and tell your body like, okay, the breast is still full. We don't need any more milk right now. Don't get scared and go, oh my gosh, I have to pump all this milk out because I'm going to get mastitis. just because that'll just keep the milk coming if you do that. So just pump enough to be comfortable, and that will just kind of help things to dry up the process. And then there's some meds you can take too, if you want to, which is, you can do like Benadryl, stuff like that, which then of course, then you're like a sleeping,
yeah,
it doesn't help.
Yeah.
But
what about
Benadryl
you always hear about like cabbage leaves. Do all the things that they say will dry up your milk supply. And you can do a little experiment for us. You could be like, okay, I heard that like peppermint dries up supply. So then you can try it, and and if it, if you feel like it does, then you can be like, oh, Abby and Diane, like I did an experiment, and it worked, or it didn't work, or whatever.
Yeah. You also have to remember,
make it all about us.
I know it's all about us in the end. You have to remember too that this is different for everybody. So I'm not putting out like these hard, fast rules about weaning. If you are a first-time mom, you're probably going to have less milk than your third-time mom who has been breastfeeding. Like so that person might take a little bit longer than, your first. It's a very individualized process. It really is. It's very individualized. So you need to kind of like be patient with yourself and be patient with the process, and be patient with your baby too. We need to remember that this is all they know. And this is, this is something that's being taken away from them too. So they need, obviously you're going to still feed them. Like we know that.
Right.
But like we said, that's the one thing that's, that they're getting back from out of this. But what about all the other stuff that they get from breastfeeding? They still need to have that. So you still need to do a lot of connection with them, a lot of, lots of skin to skin still, lots of like, I had a mom one time who really struggled a lot with breastfeeding with her first. She was just like, it was a horrible process for her and ended up weaning. And she told me once that she did things like baby massage to help her feel connected, to help her feel like she was still bonding with her baby, because there's, we want to make sure that you're still replacing those things because that's important too.
Get a baby carrier.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you don't already have one.
I mean, do that anyway. But yeah, you can spend a lot of time in there. And yeah, having lots of little calming moments together.
Yeah. And I know sometimes people wean just so that they can have help, just so that somebody else can feed, just so that they can sleep longer. I mean, is this a question of weaning, or is this a question of boundaries, or is this a question of just kind of like implementing different things? Because it doesn't have to be just, oh my gosh, I'm up in the middle of the night for every feeding. This is too much for me. I'm too overwhelmed. I need some help. I'm just going to wean. I can't do it anymore. Like, do we really want to completely wean, or do we want to breastfeed some of the time and bottle feed some of the time? Like, there's a lot of different things that can happen depending on what your situation is and how you're feeling.
Yeah, that's interesting, because people that work, I don't know, how would this work for like a younger, like a younger infant, 2-3 months old, where you're just maintaining like I guess because that's what people go to work. Mm-hmm. They, you work, you nurse when you're at home, but then you're pumping during the day to maintain supply.
Only if you want to breastfeed. Like, so if you're
keep giving them breast milk. Yeah.
Yeah. It just depends.
So you can do, even just a little bit of breast milk is
even just a
good
little
to
bit
mix in there.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what it is. And I tell people that all the time. It doesn't matter if it's just a little bit. That's good. It's still good for the baby. It's still important for them. I mean, it's just really, you can't go wrong, even if it's just a small amount. And some people do feel like, oh, is it even worth it? I'm only, who knows what they're getting? Maybe it's only an ounce. Is it even worth it? It's like, absolutely, it's worth it. They're getting so much. They're getting so much from it, whether it's an ounce, that you're pumping, or whether they're going to the breast and they're only I don't even think the baby's getting anything. It's like, that's not what it's about sometimes too,
Yeah. And like, you might need to, well, first of all, if you like need to wean because of like, certain situations, this might not work. But if there's a situation where, you want to wean, but like nursing for that one nap at that certain time of day is really helpful. So just do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep that one.
Absolutely.
If you want. Or just throw it all away. We support that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the only thing we do not support is like somebody telling you just quit cold turkey.
Yeah.
Just shut it off cold turkey. It's like your body doesn't know how to do that.
Well, yeah. And you hear a lot of things like people will be like, just, like put Band-Aids on your boobs and tell the baby that your boobs are broken.
Or put the pepper, like what is it?
Like hot sauce or something on your breasts. Yeah.
Which
I don't know. That seems kind of rude. I know, but the Band-Aid thing is more for like toddlers, which I know people have done because they can actually understand it. Like a little baby can't understand.
Right.
They just need to have whatever that is replaced.
Yeah.
And, that's
so much more. Just really remember that babies breastfeed for lots of other reasons other than food. And I know we say that all the time, but it's so true. Yeah.
And it's a transition. Like you can, it might be rough. It might be, it's like getting started or anything like that. Like it might seem like it's not working or you can't do it or, you don't know what to do, but it's just a transition. You will get to the other side and you will get to the place that you want to be. That's what I keep telling myself with this puppy. I'm like, this is temporary. This is temporary. Like we will figure this out.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then I come across people all the time who are like, you know what, my milk supply just kind of like dried up. It's not really, we're not doing anything. Baby's not latching that much anymore now that we've got, I've gone back to work. Are you getting bottles all the time? It's really not latching that much. And that's like, that's fine. But we still need to replace that bonding piece. We still need to replace that connection. Those things are still important. Maybe it was a super easy transition for you to stop breastfeeding as far as like your milk drying up. For some people, that does happen very easily, but for some people, it doesn't. So like I said, it's very different for everybody, but we still need to remember that this baby, they breastfed for way more reasons than just food. So that connection is something that's super important for you to continue on with it, to find a way to keep continuing on with that connection with them. And it's just, and the psychological piece of it. Like we want to make sure that you're feeling okay. Even though it was your decision to do this, and even though you're fine with doing it, and even though you knew it was time for you, psychologically, it still might be like you still might feel a little bit of that like postpartum weaning depression that you weren't expecting to happen. It's just like, sometimes with postpartum depression, sometimes I feel like I'm so happy to have my baby. Why am I crying all the time? Why am I unhappy? Why am I, it's like, it can feel like that with weaning. It'd be like, I was ready. I know it was ready. I was ready to wean. I was, feeling it. I was fine with it. Why do I feel like this? Some people have physical symptoms after weaning, like headaches and things like that. And they go, is this from weaning? It's like, it absolutely could be. There's a lot of stuff going on when you wean. Body is amazing. Like it's doing all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about the body, though, is that it is always in a state of like trying to find balance. And so, again, it's a transition. The headaches will go away. Mm-hmm. It's temporary. Your body will adjust. It will find its balance.
Absolutely.
I sound like the Karate Kid.
Abby watches a lot of TV. No, I don't think
I sure do. I do.
Oh my God.
I have my shows. Cobra Kai is one of them.
Oh, I need a show. I need something in my life.
We get so into shows at night. That's like our favorite thing to do. Put the kids away. And then we spend like an hour and a half watching whatever binging our favorite shows.
Oh, I need something to do.
Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill, man.
So you will someday get there too.
Yes,
and I remember having a little baby and feeling like I will never have any time to myself. I'll never have any, I'll never feel like I'm in a routine. I'll never feel like any balance. And, you will. Again, it's a transition and it's temporary. And you will get through it. We're all going to get through this.
And then you can be like me and you can have older kids that you barely see half the time, even though they live with you.
Oh, no.
But they take all your money. So you can have that balance too.
Yeah. Great. We have that to look forward to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's lovely. It's a lovely thing.
But they're happy and they're healthy.
Yeah, they are. They're good. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit on weaning. If you are considering weaning, definitely hook up with a lactation consultant to kind of talk it through and work it through, and make sure that you have somebody comfortable that you can talk about what you're feeling with it. And that's really important. It is. It's really important. So we're not just saying that. Well, that's it.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye.